YouTuber Meet Devin is absolutely sure Tesla has the basis for a lawsuit against fellow YouTuber Mark Rober. Lawyer America's Attorney is here to tell you the truth. Look, I've been a lawyer for over 20 years. I've helped over 160,000 people. And today, we're taking a look at Mark Rober's controversial self-driving car test and answering the question, does Tesla have a valid lawsuit? Let's start with some background on Rober's video. Almost a week ago, Mark Rober posted this video in which he tested how well Tesla's cameras worked compared to Luminar's LiDAR-equipped car. He ran both cars through a series of absurd tests, culminating in putting the car on autopilot and seeing if it would drive through a fake wall. Take a look at how that went for both cars.
As I suspected, handled it with no problem. The question was if the Tesla would detect it in time to step on the brakes. And it turned out...
And this is where the situation turns controversial because, as some eagle-eyed viewers notice, the autopilot function on the Tesla appears to turn off right before hitting the wall. Well, this led to backlash on social media and to this video being posted by Meet Devin. And honestly, who better is there to explain Devin's belief in a legal claim than Devin himself? Actually, guys, I know his name is Meet Kevin, but he called Mark Rober Mark Roper like 600,000 times in the video, and I just had to make fun of him for it, and I didn't really know how to do it other than just to give him a different name. But now I'll call him Kevin.
The Lanham Act has its basis in corporate false advertising. Tesla could argue that Mark made misleading statements that autopilot was designed for people who aren't paying attention, and that that's the better product over just relying on auto braking. But he purposefully leaves out full self-driving, and he purposefully leaves out that no, these products aren't designed for you not to be paying attention, and then suggests that, hey, maybe that'll help you prevent being convicted of vehicular manslaughter, which seems like a very slippery slope, illogical argument against Tesla. And if you look on social media, I'll let you do that yourself, there are plenty of people quoting this example video from Mark Rober saying, wow, look how much Tesla sucks, it kills children. I'm being hyperbolic here to summarize it for you. This clip is going viral, but it misses a lot of context. And in my opinion, it would be very easy for Tesla to argue that the vast majority of people, or at least a substantial portion of people who watch this video, are being deceived. People buy a car for safety, and this feels unsafe. And nobody wants to be convicted of vehicular manslaughter. The problem with this is he creates negative brand for Tesla by implying that the technology he's showing is Tesla's full self-driving technology. He literally writes, can you fool a self-driving car? But he doesn't actually use the self-driving technology in his experiment. Because Tesla's full self-driving technology was completely ignored, and in some cases even their autopilot technology may have been disabled, Tesla could have a pretty big argument against Mark Rober here.
Let's break it down. To establish a Lanham Act claim for false advertising or commercial disparagement when one business is talking negatively about a competitor, the following elements must be proven. First, you gotta have a false or misleading statement. The statement must be either literally false or, if technically true, misleading in context. The statement must be made in commercial advertising or promotion, not just casual conversation. The statement must actually deceive or have the capacity to deceive a substantial portion of the intended audience. Materiality. The deception must be material, meaning it would likely influence purchasing decisions. The statement must be made in interstate commerce, which is usually easy to establish in modern business. Injury or likelihood of injury. The plaintiff must show actual or likely injury resulting from the statement, such as, lost sales or damage to business reputation. For a successful claim, the plaintiff must demonstrate that the defendant's statements constitute unfair competition or false advertising under Section 43A of the Lanham Act, which prohibits misrepresentations about either the plaintiff's or the defendant's products or services. Now, I want to take these elements out of order to focus the analysis where I think it really needs to be. Is this statement made in interstate commerce? Of course it is. There's nothing more interstate than the internet in terms of communication, and the last time I checked, YouTube is on the internet, and there's nothing more interstate in terms of products that you can sell than vehicles that literally drive from one state to another state, even if those vehicles are battery powered and have to stop for recharging. Let's talk about whether there's an actual or likely deception. This one is a bit of a gray area, but I think it might probably break in favor of Tesla. If there was a decision by Rober's team not to use all of the capabilities of the Tesla when comparing it to the LiDAR-enabled Luminar car, and that fact wasn't effectively communicated to the audience, then that's potentially problematic, and certainly Meet Kevin thinks that's the case. To be clear, Rober disputes that he mislabeled or misled the audience about what features were engaged in the vehicle.
And my understanding is that the sensor is not different, whether it's full self-driving or autopilot. Knowing if that's a wall or not, that doesn't change. So I think I'd be happy to rerun the experiment in full self-driving. I'm pretty confident it wouldn't be a different result.
So now we're about 2 out of 6 points into the analysis, and things seem to go pretty well so far in Tesla's way for a potential lawsuit against Mark Rober. But let's look at these other points now. One of the requirements of a successful Lanham Act claim is that the alleged deception must have materiality, meaning that it could move the needle one way or the other for someone to buy or not buy a Tesla. This analysis, in my view, it can't go in Tesla's favor. This is, at most, like a tie. The problem here for Tesla in this context of a Lanham Act claim is that Rober was making an entertaining video in which he was putting the car in like functionally absurd circumstances. There's not a single person who decides to buy or not buy a Tesla based on the assertion that the car can't figure out that it is in a Wile E. Coyote situation. That is not yet how people make car buying decisions. And if you don't believe me, just keep in mind that at the trial, Tesla would have to put a witness on the stand, actually potentially multiple witnesses, that say under oath that they themselves were going to buy a Tesla and then they decided not to because they found out that the car could accidentally be tricked into driving into a wall if the wall was painted like the road. I mean, oh, people. Even if you found such a witness that's so stupid that they would testify that way, I promise you, in America, you could never find a jury stupid enough to believe that witness, right? You can't find 12 people to believe that. And what about this requirement for a successful Lanham Act claim that the statement must be in commercial advertising or promotion? This point is highly problematic for Tesla and their hypothetical lawsuit. Remember that there is no way for a customer wanting to buy a LiDAR-equipped Luminar vehicle to easily move from Mark Rober's YouTube channel to like a purchasing funnel for such a vehicle. Moreover, there's no evidence that Rober was paid by any company to discuss the vehicles or to claim that a LiDAR-enabled one is somehow the one that concerned consumers should buy. I think as a legal matter, Rober might be very capable of scoring a dismissal just on the theory that his video was not a promotion of a competitor to Tesla. I mean, I'll be the first to say that he got pretty close to the line with the employee from Luminar who was driving the second vehicle wearing that logo emblazoned shirt, but he was not paid to promote Tesla's competitors, and they did not get an opportunity on his platform to pitch their vehicle. So honestly, I think Rober wins on this element. But perhaps the most interesting analysis is around the issue of whether Rober made a false or misleading statement. I mean, the threshold or critical issue has to do with the editing around the moments before impact in the Tesla. Mark Rober has done an interview in which he said he was not manipulating the results, and he can't explain why it went from full color autopilot type driving to something other than that right before impact.
So I think people were saying that I was manually just drove it through because 17 frames, by the way, is like less than a half of a second before it hits the wall. Again, I don't know why it would disengage. I was not pulling on the steering wheel. And by the way, even if I did disengage it, it's less than a half a second before you go off. The outcome would not be different. My guess is maybe the sensors, the ultrasonic sensors, which I think are on the bumper, they probably just disengage if they sense that something big is there and it just stops being in self-driving mode or autopilot, whatever you want to call it.
But it's not his job to explain that or his job to let Tesla look like as good as possible as a product. Instead, he was a content creator who focuses on curiosity and learning and science, who conducted an experiment that has had, I don't know, a wacky result. I think it's gonna be hard for Tesla to overcome the fact that they don't have any proof that Rober manipulated the outcome of his process, especially since he shared the unedited video footage of both takes of the crash. So then there's the final area of analysis, whether Tesla has an injury or a probable injury to its reputation or to its sales. And for this one, I have to say that it would have been really, really, really nice to have Mark Rober appear on the channel right here to tell us what is the average age of his viewers. Because while I've watched many Mark Rober videos personally, I've always assumed that they were made for children, or at least made for adults who are watching with their children, or made for adults who have childlike sensibilities. I don't want to hear Tesla say that the video has like 10 million views in the first couple of days. I don't care about that. I would love to know how many of those views were from children or adults watching with children, because those people are not making car buying decisions after watching a Rober video. In fact, if Rober knows his analytics and knows what the average age of his viewership is, he can probably demonstrate beyond any meaningful doubt or discussion that he was making videos to be consumed by elementary school students and preteen kids, not anyone looking for actual advice about actually what car to actually buy. And honestly, if you just step back and watch the whole video, that point is very obvious. Mark Rober was right to point out that this is America and anyone can sue anyone else at almost any time for almost anything. Hey, I love this country. Whether Tesla could or should sue him is a question that certainly goes far beyond whether or not they have technically a legal claim against him. Let me put it another way. Suing Mark Rober would be the stupidest thing that Tesla could do, which means that they may already be writing the lawsuit. Because you have to keep in mind that Tesla's management team tends to do the opposite of what a lot of normal and rational people do. And it's helped them tremendously, even if it has hurt them from time to time. Could they get inside the courthouse with a lawsuit against Mark Rober? Probably. Would they win such a lawsuit? I mean, almost certainly not. But if they did win, could it bankrupt Mark Rober? I mean, almost certainly it could. If they sue him and they lose, would it potentially hurt Mark Rober financially? Well, that's a little bit of a gray area. Most YouTube creators have insurance that covers lawsuits like a Lanham Act case. Perhaps Mr. Rober has such a policy, but if he doesn't, the cost of litigation and the wear and tear of the litigation could be a real grind on him as he seeks to focus on, as I said before, making videos for children. So there you have it. Hey, Tesla, if you're watching, don't spend your time suing Mark Rober. Instead, Tesla, you should get down in the comments and tell me what you think. Am I right or am I wrong about all this? And for everyone else, if you're not Tesla, what are your thoughts on Rober's test? Do you agree with Meet Devin? Kevin. Okay, that time it was an accident. Do you agree with Meet Kevin that there is a viable lawsuit here? Drop your pro se opinion down below in the comments. And don't forget to lawyer up with America's attorney by driving your hand right into the subscribe button. I promise you, it's not painted like a subscribe button. It is a subscribe button. You'll be fine. And I'll be back soon with another legal breakdown, and I hope to see you then. Bye. Even if those videos... Could it bankrupt? And the wear and tear of the litigation...